Hi everyone, glad to see you all. Welcome to panel Promising Genres of Mobile Games in 2023. My name is Stacey Yamkova, game release coordinator at American Gaming System, and today I will moderate this panel discussion. So, first of all, I would like to introduce our fantastic speakers. The first is Artem Chupryna, publishing manager at Kwalee. Welcome.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And also welcome Alona Frishberg, a game director at Product Madness.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you.
And also welcome Florian Jauffrineau, Vice President of Publishing at TapNation.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I pronounce it in proper way?
Well, Florian was perfect, but the family name, I mean, it comes from the west of France, so I wasn't expecting you to pronounce it right. It's a complicated one.
How to pronounce it in the proper way?
Jauffrineau.
Oh, wow. Sounds
good. Very French, right?
I'm sorry. But noted for the future. Okay, so today we will discuss different topics, as you know, and after all insights, we could answer a question from the chat. So feel free, please, to type your questions to our speakers. And I will start from myself. So I have more than 7 years of experience in game release and project management and owning all stages of project lifecycle in gaming. And AGS is a Las Vegas-based company which is focused on creating slot tables, poker tables, and so on worldwide. So please share in few words, what are you doing in your company? Tell a bit more about your experience, about yourself, and that's it. Who would like to be the first?
I can go first. I'll be the first volunteer. So first of all, thank you. I've been working, so I'm Alona. I'm currently working at Product Madness as a game director, which means I manage a game. I've been in the gaming industry for about 8 years. I started as a QA and moved on to product management, and gaming was a hobby for me, but then completely fell in love with the industry from that part of things. I worked for a few years at a studio called Jelly Pattern, which was later acquired by Playtika. I was a product manager, then a product director of a few games, and also of the infrastructure team. And in the past year, I've been managing a game under the new games division of Product Madness. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Alona. Artem or Florian, who would like to be the next?
Artem, please.
Thanks. Okay, cool. There's Artem. So actually, I have experience in publishing around like 3 years. So previously, I worked as a 3D artist in the game industry, film industry, architecture. So I tried a lot of different stuff during that experience. So working at Kwalee around like 2 years already. So we're specialized in mobile publishing. Also, we have like internal strong production department. Also, we have the PC console department and casual department.
All right, thank you.
And as for me, so it's very nice to be here. My name is Florian. I'm 28 years old, so I'm currently VP of Publishing at TapNation and also head of the internal production. I recently celebrated my 3rd year as well at TapNation. Before that, I studied law originally, and I traveled around for a couple of years, and I restarted my studies in a video game. I actually started in TapNation when we were a very small company, like we were 7 at the time. That was my final internship. And during my time, I had the chance to release a few games, among which Giant Rush, Sneaker Art, Figuring Art, Monster Squad Rush more recently, among the more popular ones. So yeah, pleasure to be here.
All right, thanks a lot. So the first general question is, what is a hyper casual game now? How do you see it? How could you explain it?
Who wants to go first on this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I guess I'll go in that case. So, an hyper casual game, to me, is first of all, hyper casual is a business model. It's not a genre of game per se, because it's including puzzle, runners, arcade games, simulation, idle, lots of other genres. But in its simplest form, it's a simple, intuitive, fun, and addictive type of game. And its monetization is mainly through ads. I would say about 95% of the time. Well, 100% of the time, like it's mostly ads. 95% of the revenue is generated by ads in the game, and some IAP.
All right, thank you. Maybe someone would like to add on this.
Yeah, I would like to add. I completely agree with all of what you just described. So actually, hyper casual, the core principle of hyper casual hasn't been changed for these years. It's still the snackability, simplicity, obvious, and short playable sessions, which are extremely important. And it's fun. First of all, it should be fun for all players.
That's it. Alona?
So I think what was said already was pretty accurate. I think the main characteristic of a hyper casual game is to be short term. Their sessions are really, really short, and making sure they're fun, addictive. The mechanic is simple to understand and very, very intuitive. And it is a business model. I completely agree with that statement. And where the monetization statement was also really true, where they base most of their because it's a bite-sized type of game, they base most of the models on the ad monetization. So it's just like a bite size of a game, which I love the definition.
Yes, it's true. All right. And how do you think, what are the key characteristics of successful hyper casual game?
That's a good question. Nowadays, I would say that the focus is definitely more on the quality of execution when it comes to hyper casual. There used to be a time not too far away, I would say about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where you would see not too well executed hyper casual games succeed and come to the top charts. I would say that these times are pretty much over now. It's much, much more rare to see these cases happen. So when I work on any hyper casual game on my side, I always focus a lot on the quality of execution, like buttery smooth visuals and animations, satisfying mechanic, and of course, like the constant gratification as well that comes with hyper casual.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to add a little bit. So I would say that the starting point of any successful hyper casual is going to be the unique ideas, the quality of ideas, ideation overall, because currently the market is oversaturated. That's why we need to provide something extremely interesting, new, fresh, or some interesting tweaks for already existing and well-known mechanics. And secondly, definitely should be fun, game mechanic, some new game experience, and of course the visual execution, the visual uniqueness of the game, because currently the quality, this is definitely what's the first attract players.
Yeah, fully agree with you. And Alana, how do you think, what could make your game successful?
So I think it's also a good combination between having a fun and fresh mechanic to introduce, but also keeping it really simple so it will catch on really quickly, and that hook will be something effective, and people could get that addictive and fun feeling from the game without going through tutorials and understanding complex mechanics. It's something that needs to come really naturally. And I think that's a key characteristic when making that sort of game to sort of keep the players engaged.
All right. And how do you think, what is the most profitable genre of mobile games, of hyper casual games now? Alona, maybe you would like to start.
I think the most common genres now are runners or arcade types. which is something that we're seeing pretty commonly being published a lot. Sort of a little bit from my experience and what I'm seeing, just a little bit of research.
Yes, it's true.
I would say that maybe Artem, you wanted to go a second.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I would also like to add that it's puzzle games definitely currently show pretty interesting and good results. And of course, don't need to forget about the arcade idol, which been a massive, let's say, provide like a massive interest of all audience in 2022 and show pretty good results.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Artem, that when it comes to most profitable, I would say on a long run, it's definitely puzzle, because puzzle tends to stay very long on the top charts. You just have to check Pop Wars game like Parking Jam on that type of game. They've been around for 2 years, 2 and a half, never pretty much left, never the top 50. And they are very profitable. We have like a water sword game, TapNation's account, for example, that is very profitable. But in the same range, runners and simulation games can also be very profitable as well. To be honest, on our side, we didn't necessarily see Arcade Idol being too profitable when compared to these other genres, but they definitely have the potential to be. And I think other publishers have had experiences with very high profitability Arcade Idol games.
All right. And the next question is very interesting. It's for me. What is the number one mobile game right now?
Well, I would say
what criteria could be how we should measure this. What is the most?
It's a tough question.
I would say based on downloads, based on revenue. If it's download, I would say definitely right now this is the Subway Surface, because the numbers which they reached in 2022 is like more than 260 millions.
Fantastic.
I agree. Like the unicorns one, Subway Surfer, Candy Crush, those are still like number one. Very unique in that regard, where they never left the top 10 ever. But if we were to just focus on hyper casual, I would say that number one right now is Attack Hole from Roma. We've been seeing a good scale with it. Been in the top charts for quite a few weeks. So yeah, it's Attack Hole if we focus on hyper casual.
All right, Alona, do you want to add something?
I said thank you.
All right, that's fine. And how do you think? How long does it take to make a hyper casual game?
So I can take this one maybe. So I think that's also a pretty complex question, as each game with its component maybe takes a bit of looking into how long it will take to create the process. I'm a firm believer in doing things quick and dirty, and I think for the hyper casual industry, it's even more true, as testing out idea and making sure that the things are working and people are coming back and are using the ads to shorten their effort is something to be tested really, really quickly. So I would say it could be something around 6 months. Depends on the team size and the processes and the pipelines and the experience the company has. But I think a really good, solid team with testing out the market every once in a while, having like a clear idea, could be done in a short amount of time.
Okay, guys, do you want to add something? How do you think? Maybe it could be like few months or...
Yeah, I would say it depends on different factors. The first one, how experienced the team of developer working on, how many people, how was the productive capacity do they have. Secondly, it's going to be what's the game is. I mean, if it's something simple, it can take between like a month up to 2-3 months maximum. If it's something which requires a lot of visual uniqueness, a lot of, let's say, narrative design in the game, and a lot of content. Of course, the production can be 6 months plus. So everything is really very depends on the project to project and from devs to devs.
Okay, I guess Florian will join us in a moment. Let me check what we have next. How do you think what could make games unique and profitable? Obviously, new features, but maybe something else. What do you think about that?
I think it's always important to keep a sense of, say, freshness, because it's not really innovation, but a sense of freshness either in the mechanic or the way that like the visual aspect of it. Just getting new ideas from everywhere in order to create something that's a bit new, as hyper casual games are being created all the time. Find a way to stand out. And for the monetization model to feel inherent in the game as something to shorten efforts, letting players have a bit more sense of control there, I think, is a better, more fresh approach and could really help stand out in the market today.
Yeah, welcome back. So we are discussing what actually can make games unique and profitable. Maybe you want to tell us a bit more about that.
Okay, yeah, so sorry for the technical issue. My internet connection seems to be cutting off sometime. Okay, so what makes a game unique and profitable on hyper casual? Well, circling back a little bit to what I said earlier, I think attention to detail is very important in every aspect when it comes to hyper casual. Even though they are simple games, everything matters in them. Like you have to make the mechanic super satisfying, super intuitive. The progression is also very important. You have to pay attention a lot to what we call the churn rate. So how many players you lose on level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. You also have to pay attention to the visual aspects. Of course, I would say fun should always be the driving factor. And renewing that fun factor, bringing some variety to it. Like there can be, for example, if I take the example of Jump Rush, simple enough concept. You just grow in size and you fight a big guy at the end. But you have to introduce new type of obstacles, new type of levels in order to make the experience fresh every time you come back into the game. So yeah, and idea is also, of course, super important, as Artem mentioned before. Like I would say that maybe in the past 6 months, hyper casual has been a little less innovative. There are a lot of games that are twists or remakes of previous mechanics that were working well, or rethemed new themes. But yeah, I think innovation is still important as well.
Yeah, completely agree with all of you. So the most important starting point, definitely this idea, marketability of this idea, how we can sell it and attract new players. And the second one, which is crucial, is a new game experience for all players. What they get in this new concept, in this new game, what they can achieve, how obvious is it, how fun is it? Can they stick in this game for a long period, or is it going to be like a short, let's say, one-day project? So everything's starting from the idea, and then it's the quality of execution, how the mechanic is polished, how the visual execution is great or not. Because right now the requirements and demands of the market is pretty high compared with what was 2 years ago. That's why I would say that the starting threshold is a little bit higher than it was.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So imagine that we have already in our games all these components, and what next? Where we could get more users for our game? Who would like to start?
Okay, I can continue actually.
Yes, please.
So let's imagine we have a good product. So next step is going to be definitely contact the publisher who has experience how to actually sell this idea, how to, let's say, make them a profitable marketing campaign for this game and attract like a massive audience.
Yeah, for bouncing back on what you're saying, Artem, I mean, the two driving factors are always like user acquisition on one side and organic on the other side. So I would say that most publishers nowadays, they test on Facebook, but also other networks before killing a game, like Mintegral, for example, or TikTok, depending on the type of games that you're testing. It can be more interesting to test on TikTok on the first go around. And ASO, App Store Optimization, is a very big driving factor, especially in the last few months. Once again, like since a year, there are lots of games on the top charts that are ASO driven, not so much user acquisition driven. Thinking about games on the Puppy Playtime, for example, or Rainbow Friends, which are trendy stuff, and they are mainly ASO driven. So you want to obviously focus on user acquisition as a publisher, but ASO is also a very big focus that I think all publishers should have, because it can make a hell of a difference. Like if you're changing an icon, and we've seen cases where conversion of users coming into the page was increased by 20%, it makes a hell of a lot of difference. So yeah, those are the two factors. That's ASO and UA.
And also, I would like to add, this is the A/B test, a lot of creativities, which we use advertisement. So all the time, there shouldn't be any pause in this one. You always need to try a new one approach, how to, let's say, sell this idea.
Yeah, that's true. Alona, maybe you would like to add something?
I just have a small asterisk that where in the ASO, TikTok is a new platform for advertising. To me, sits really well, specifically with hyper casual, as it feels like almost the same format, and TikTok is almost like a bite size of content. And I see a lot of similarity also in the genres and the mechanics, where a lot of trends from TikTok and videos sort of come into the hyper casual gaming, like all the OCD games that is now popping up, of fixing a fridge and filling it up with different ingredients. So I think that's also a good direction.
All right, thank you. And the next question is, where could we get ideas and inspiration for developing new game features? So I guess obviously it could be TikTok or Netflix, but maybe you know any other resources or ways to get them. Would like to discuss.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. Well, what you said was right, Stacey. You always want to keep in touch with the market. You mentioned Netflix, social media. Obviously, what happens on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, everything. Basically, anything mainstream, like new releases of movies, music, can be anything really. You have to stay in touch with that and observe also where the market is moving. Like if you see a lot these days, we see quite a few idle games, for example, working well. I know Rolik has released quite a few. We have quite a few as well working on our testing currently. So idle is something that is currently having some potential. I would say arcade idle, hybrid casual, as well as a big focus, as Artem mentioned before. But yeah, you have to keep in touch on the social media side because it's very important, but also on the market side. You see lots of runners, lots of simulation games on the top charts. Obviously, if you release a new game, you're going to acquire users in those games. Your ads are going to be shown in these games. So if there are 10 simulation games on the top 50, you might want to release a simulation game because there's more potential for you to appear on these games. So yeah.
Thank you. Alona or Artem, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I can continue next. So actually, I'm totally agree with you. It's absolutely correct. And that's what we should follow during the production and ideation brainstorm sessions. Also, I would like to add that following the trends, first of all, try to understand why it works. And secondly, what's been missed. So if you can edit this missing part, that's going to be like the key for successful of this new game. So you need to be aware that just follow the trends. It's a good strategy, but you need to provide something new also in these trends which exist currently on the market. So I would say the inspiration ideation can be can appear everywhere. Like in a real life, some action. If you, for example, wanted to do some kind of ultra casual games, just to understand what's, let's say, snackable, interesting, and pleasurable doing like in a daily life. Follow the trends on the media, social networks, social media, and also, as I said, follow the trends on the market and trying to analyze it, what works and what doesn't.
All right, thank you. I hope Alona will join us in a moment.
You're next. You're gonna be next.
Yeah, sorry. I hope my Wi-Fi won't.
Okay, we are playing our own game, you know. Okay, and how do you think? Why are hyper casual games successful? What makes them successful nowadays?
Well, we kind of already talked about it in the beginning, but I think like it's being universal is a very important thing, because as the name is sort of implying, hyper casual is for a mainstream audience. Like if I take the example of fill the fridge, I guess we all have a fridge in our apartments, our house, and maybe not all of us, but most of us would do the groceries and fill up the fridge. So it's an experience that speaks to everybody. I would say the mainstream aspect, the universal aspect, is something very important that can make games super successful. Fun, as Artem mentioned, the game, hyper casual games should always be fun, always the driving factor. Intuitive, that is very important, because if you get people in your game but they don't know how it controls, they don't understand it well, they're not going to stay in it. So you may have a low CPI, for example, low cost of acquisition, but if you don't know how to engage your players to stay, then it's all worthless at the end. And those are the three things I would say for me.
Thank you. Artem, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so I would say the most, the biggest reason why it's successful right now and it's been successful for the past years is because hyper casual games is not for the gamers, it's for everybody. That's why this is something fun, snackable, and easy to understand, and that's which provided this actually game experience. Games such as fun, no matter what age you are, no matter where you are this planet. So this is for everybody who don't want to waste or don't have capability to play, let's say, more hardcore games, but really want to have this fun. And of course, for whom don't have a lot of time for the games.
Yeah, indeed. Welcome back, Alona. We are discussing the question why actually hyper casual games are successful, but maybe we would like to get back also to inspiration question. Maybe you would like to add something to this.
So from the inspiration standpoint, I think that, as I mentioned, I think getting inspiration from wherever you can. Anything trending right now, movies, TVs, TikTok, I think would be a really good inspiration, as I think it shares a lot of the audience, where it's more of the younger audience, but also everyone. So seeing what's trending there and seeing what could be adapted into a game. So just from anything making people smile, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. And why are hyper casual games successful? How do you think?
So I think it was mentioned in better words about the fact that hyper casual games are really accessible and for everyone, which I think makes it really, really unique. I think it makes the gaming industry as an industry more accessible to more people, and a lot of people that could be reluctant to try and play a new game. It could really feel like something they could enjoy.
That's it. All right, thank you. And I guess the most interesting question for today is, how do you think what are key trends for current year, for this year? I would like to start. Artem, maybe.
Maybe Arena, you can start. We missed you for a couple of minutes, so.
Yeah.
Key trends. I have to think about it for a bit.
All right, Artem or Florian, maybe you would like to
Yeah,
make
I can
clear
go.
for everyone what is the trend for this year.
Go ahead, Artem.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So yeah, I would say definitely it's going to be a trend and the year of hybrid casual games. I would say something mixed between the hyper casual gameplay with some depth meta and more complex monetization, which include not only advertisement but also like not only rewards but also some kind of in-game purchases. Yeah, and I would say it's still the same, the perfect time for, which already discussed, type of hyper casual like runners, puzzles, arcade idle games. So yeah, I would say the games, the trends will be transformed a little bit, but not drastically.
Yeah, following up on what you're saying, Artem. Sorry, Stacey, to have cut you off. But yeah, I definitely think hybrid casual is going to be a big thing in 2023. There are a lot of publishers have been diversifying their activity a little bit and moving towards that more engaged audience, more casual audience. So I think we're going to see more successes from this. But I don't think hyper casual is dying. I think hyper casual still has good days in front of it, just because it's a type of audience that never dies. Like, sure, there are people that are gonna move towards more complicated and complex games, but there's always going to be that audience that is not game driven, not necessarily interested in more complex games. So I before, but Idle, for example, we've been seeing some good metric, some CPI wise and engagement wise. I would say puzzle should be a big focus for anybody that is interested in that type of game. But puzzle is quite universal. It's quite minimalistic in its approach, and as we mentioned before, it's in my opinion, it's the highest potential profitability genre of hyper casual, and we see that as well in casual games, like a game like Collectible from Voodoo, for example, more casual, but definitely puzzle and very profitable. And yeah, I think also that we might be seeing some new innovative, like unique concepts come out or mechanic, because it's been a while since hyper casual has been taken over by a new approach. Like I'm thinking, for example, of the walking runners, where it wasn't as fast paced as standard runners. It was more like story or narrative driven. I'm thinking of Run Rich 3D, for example, from Voodoo, which was a top charting game. These kind of took over for a while and sort of disappeared. But girly games as well were a big thing, I would say a year and a half ago. And I think we haven't seen any similar thing going on in hyper casual for quite a long time. So in 2023, we might be seeing something new come up.
Yeah, sounds good. Alona, maybe you want to add something on this.
So the one thing I could add is that in addition to, like, it is mentioned that the hyper casual industry is like the games do grow a little bit more into depth. I think maybe social features are also something that could be really trending in the next year, as it has been trending in the previous one. And I think now that hyper casual games are getting a little bit more depth, and with the technology making it a little bit easier to create multiplayer games, that could also be a trend for next year.
All right. I guess we have finished with main topics, and we don't have questions from the audience, but I guess everyone who will have any questions later could add our speakers on LinkedIn and ask them directly. So I'm grateful to everyone of you for your experience and insights, and I hope to see you during our next Hyper Games conferences and events.
Thank you, Stacey, for monitoring, moderating. And yeah, it's been a pleasure
Thanks
to
so
be
much.
here and discuss with you guys.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.